I was talking about the Paramatha Dhammas, and I was thinking of one way to explain the pasada, the sensitivity. For example, when we study Abhidhamma, we repeat certain things. For example, in Thai we say, Kaya Dvara Daike Kaya Pasada, Chakku Dvara Daike Chakku Pasada. For example, that is the eye's sensitivity is the eye door, the body sensitivity is the body door, and so on. It's a kind of equating or connecting the different natures and functions of the realities. For example, the sensitivity, take a very obvious example, the body sensitivity is the body door. So for example, you watch the body sensations. In the body sensations, you see all those four elements. The four elements coexist with the body door because the body door includes the four elements. So when you feel the bodily sensations, where do they arise? Just like when you watch your mind objects, where do they arise? Object at the mind door. So you see, so when you watch your body sensations, what are you watching? Watching the body door. You're watching the Kaya Pasada. No, Kaya Pasada, the body sensitivity. But because we use the word sensitivity, we tend to think it only in terms of sensitivity, but we're talking about a phenomenon. But because of all the sensations moving around and the predominance of certain characteristics of the elements, we tend to miss it. For example, you watch Piero's nose, Piero's mouth, Piero's eye, but you forget you're actually watching Piero. So similarly, if you watch your body sensations and the body sensations become not so distinct, and so what you're watching still maybe a little bit of body sensations, but you're watching the body. And of course, at that time, you don't think of the physical body, its shape, or whose it belongs to. This is the body door. You don't think about it. It's nothing to do with inference. It's direct experience. So that's why we said this sensitivities can be observed directly. So okay, now we come to this, the first group of dhammas called the hindrances. There are several groups of Dhamma observed. First is the hindrances. Second are the aggregates of clinging. Third is the sense bases. Then the factors of enlightenment. Finally, the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths. So we are talking the objects were the ultimate realities. Ultimate realities, each of them have their specific characteristics and their various functions, so on. So we could categorize it according to its different characteristics and different functions and different properties and so on. It depends on what you want to do with it. For example, if you want to build a house, you have to gather all those house builders. For example, you have to find Johnny, or number one. After that, you find Alberto, number two. Who else you want to find? You find an old lady? No. She's probably too weak to walk around. But if she's the boss, she has also to be around. So, you want to go for a better, who do you call? I'm asking them, if you want to go for a better, who do you call? Oh, must be those bravest of the brave, those who are not afraid to die. And after that, then you can start training them. So, you choose those people. Then you can choose the general, the lieutenant. So if let's say there's a war going on and the state calls for an army to be, who they will call? Who will they draft? You call all those young men because they can fight. And then after that, if no more, they even call old men, old women and children, they also fight. It seems I read about the Second World War. There was this big battle of Stalingrad. You know about that? It was a terrible battle. So there was a big battle between the German machos and the Russian babichkas. Those ladies, strong women, iron ladies, they are very fierce. So when it comes to battle, no sexual discrimination. Either you live or I die. Either I live or you die. So anyway, we come back to this. So here, each of them are grouped according to certain qualities. The first are the group of hindrances. The 5 hindrances. First is sensual craving, then there is this ill will, or anger, or aversion, then there's loss and torpor, then there's restlessness and worry, and lastly is the skeptical doubts. There are a lot of texts and suttas about these 5 hindrances. Main thing about this is they are the hindrances to the development of right concentration. In classification, they are definitely unwholesome states. So if they are present, you are going nowhere. Stay down. So the what you call the word for it? I wouldn't call it interesting. I call it the saving grace. Is that it can be still made an object of vipassana. When you look at it this way, these hindrances or these defilements, they are also part of nature, in the sense that they also bear with them the 3 universal characteristics. That is, you can use it as a stepping stone or a building block for your path to Nibbana. That means they become an object, and when it remains as an object, you are on the safe ground. Come to the condition, the object, there's a mind, the consciousness, and the object. Can the object and the consciousness be the same thing? Can be the same thing, but not necessary. If it's the same thing, it is things on 2 moments. For example, Abhidhamma states clearly that everything can be the conscious object of consciousness except the consciousness of that moment. Why? Porque, philosopher, you're a philosopher.
Because the object must be distinct from the conscious, from the sheet.
You're quite right, but why? Very complicated. So I started asking people. So I went around asking monks. But there's something more to it. So why not at the same moment? The consciousness can know anything. It can even know Nibbana. What happens if you put away the sense of time? In Vipassana, you transcend time. Time is a concept. So why not? Yeah? So we have to question everything. So I went around, why not? What's the best answer? So anyway, it's something for thought. So I finally asked. Until I reached the top Thai monk. This is Vimula Dhamma, who is my teacher's teacher. The other monks are very scared of him. So for example, when he's sitting there, there's some younger monks that bring tea. So he bring his handshake. And the cup is placed, you should put the cup with the ears to the person, not to yourself. So when you give he said, why you serve the cup with the ears not facing me? And he started shaking. So I was watching all this. So finally, because I was not born in this traditional Buddhist family, so in a way I don't care. So when I went to him, I directly asked him the question. My teacher was there, he warned his teacher, be careful what you say. Because what you say he's going to write down on a book. So I asked him this question, why can the present mind cannot take itself as the object? He says that it's a question of function in the conditioning. It's the nature of the objective conditioning. It's like the finger cannot touch itself. So anyway, that was what he said. So I said, do I really understand it? Probably not. But now I think I understand better. It's all to do with conditioning. It's right. It's something to do with objective conditioning. Because different objects have different qualities. So the conditioning is also different. So now we come to this conditioning of the hindrances. So when a person practices, one of the first things they meet with are the hindrances. Why? Because you're going against the flow. But these are the different type of flow. This is the flow of the defilements. It leads you round and round samsara, like the mice that is inside the wheel that runs. So how do you make these hindrances as an object? First, you have to be mindful of it, because if you have no mindfulness, you cannot be doing any vipassana. And so when you have this mindfulness, you have to have very strong and sharp mindfulness to see it as no self, as a natural phenomena. Because in the beginning, you don't have that perception. You have, at least at the beginning, mindfulness. But if you're mindful of it, then of course, naturally, at that moment, the hindrance is not there, because the wholesome and unwholesome cannot coexist in one time. in the consciousness. This we are talking of one moment of consciousness. And the object, if it is to be ultimate reality, is also one moment of that arising and passing away. See, at the beginning it's not vipassana yet. It is still the concept of time and so on around. So in that sense, at least in the beginning, you can get rid of the hindrances, which is in a way not so different from samatha. For example, samatha, you develop a mental concentration of a mental state that is opposite to that hindrances. For example, you have anger, you develop concentration of loving kindness. That is not vipassana. But after they get the mind free from hindrances, then they go into a vipassana object. But they don't use the hindrance as a vipassana object. Whereas vipassana, you practice vipassana, when the hindrance arises, you look at it. Now in vipassana, we develop the perception of the three characteristics: non-self, impermanence, and suffering. Because at first we develop it depending on using the body, the feelings, and the consciousness. And then we've developed that, and the hindrances like the craving, anger arises. Then you make use of it mindfully. You also see these characteristics in the hindrance. So when you see the hindrance disappear, then you can see it according to vipassana, and so it becomes develop the path. Again, for example, the samatha is, for example, when the defilement arises, you bring out a concentration. Because of strong concentration, it disappears. Whereas in vipassana, when the defilement arises, when you make use as an object, you face directly with it. You understand more fully regards to the nature of the defilements. This is a better and more efficient way of dealing with it. The best way to deal with things like this is to have a direct encounter. Then you begin to learn more about the nature of the enemy. You come to another point, is that you shouldn't take these hindrances as enemies. They're like those sick people, lost people. When we talk of friends, I usually tell people there are three types of friends. First is the good friend, one that is wholesome. Sometimes they call it a teacher or guide, things like that. No, the good friend, kalyana mittata. Second is the close friend, those that stick with you through thick and thin. And the third friend is the lost friend, lost in samsara, lost in the defilement. So these hindrances are like lost friends. So you have to transform them back. If you're able to do that, you gain back a lot of strength. It's just like you're turning your enemy's army to your side. But the transformation is not so easy. It takes time. They switch camps easily. So how to deal with it? Vipassana deals with it nicely. Because when you watch it with Vipassana, you understand the nature of it and the conditions that are involved. As we said, when you talk of Dhammanupassana, you're looking at the study of conditions. It means after you have trained in the first three and you go to the fourth foundation. So you have enough mindfulness and Vipassana mindfulness. When you look at it, you're able to see beyond what it is. You also see into all the conditions behind it. When you watch conditioning, it's like you're watching more than one thing at the same time. It can be the conditioning of the same moment. It can be conditioning of the moments after. If it's of the same moment, you can experience it in terms of digital. But in terms of more than one moment, you can experience it in terms of a cloud. But generally, in such cases, we do both. So when you do that, then you can see the conditions involved, the arising of the defilement and the conditions that come about through the cessation of the hindrance. A good example is thinking restlessness. Usually when we start thinking, we don't know when we start thinking, unless it's something very gross. But generally, if you sit trying to watch your rising falling, after the thinking comes. By the time you realize it, it's already sometime. She asks you, why are you thinking so much? Haven't you been thinking enough in your life? And you say, but I don't want to think. It just goes on thinking by itself. So is that insight into non-self? No, it's not insight. It's the knowledge of helplessness. So, but you practice mindfulness and you come closer to the actual arising of the thought. But before that you can guess. I think because I switch on the telephone and so I've been talking a bit too much on the mobile phone. So this is still thinking, but inferential. But when you're able to watch the moment the thought arises, then all the conditions are there. And it's not thinking, it's direct experience of the arising of the thought. Because you see all the natural characteristics and elements involved at that moment. And when you see that also you see all this nature as non-self. In the same way, when you can watch the intention arising, you also see all the conditions there at the moment of the rising of the intentions. Those conditions are all around it. Go one step even further. It means there are many conditions that give arising to the thought, but there are some which are more potent and stronger. For example, let's see, talking of the first one, the sense desire. For example, you talk about the causes of it, the conditions arising for its, and the causes for the dissolution of it. Or the important things mentioned in the commentary is the wise and unwise reflection. The Pali word is yoniso manasikara and ayoniso manasikara. Very difficult to translate. How would you translate it, Rob?
Wise attention.
So you follow the other translators. I don't like it because yoniso ayoniso does not necessarily mean there's wisdom in it. Because it's involved with manasikara. And manasikara, the attention, is abhyagata. It is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. So there's moral, there's immoral, there's unmoral. So by itself, the mental state is unmoral. Depending on what associates with it, it could be moral or immoral. This attention is a very interesting thing. It is like the rudder of a ship. Depending on which side the rudder turns, you either go right or you go left. So if it turns into the way that what happens next will be immoral, then they call it unwise attention, which I rather use improper attention, unskilled attention. And if it turns the other way and it becomes wholesome, then it's the wise attention or skilled attention. So this is a very important point. That's why it's the point where in the thought processes determine the type of karma performed. Because of this turning thing, it also determines the type of object that you meet with. When you go to a place, what do you look for? What would you look for if you happen to take a walk on the streets of Milan? What would you look for? When I first came to Milan, I was curious. I see what shops are there in Milan. What are there in Milan? All types of shops which sells things I don't need. Once in a while I see something, aha! Restaurant. Manasikara is like that. No? It determines the object, it determines also the mental state. For example, in the sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, what's it? Mula Pariyaya Sutta. It talks about what was it? No, yeah. Then the next one is what?
That's the taints, all the taints.
Sabasava Sutta. That's what I want to mean. All the taints, all the defilements, and where the Buddha tells about the ways how to overcome them. The first one is wise attention, and he explains what is wise attention. Can't remember the exact words. One of them is if you are looking at the objects, the defilements arise, then it's unwise attention. If, on the other hand, you look at an object, the defilements go down and the wholesome states go up, then it's wise attention. The other thing is that if you have wise attention, you know that this is suffering, this is the cause of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the way to the cessation of suffering. It refers more to the object. So when you watch these hindrances, and you wash into the conditioning of the hindrances. You wash into the yoniso and anyoniso manasikara. So when you see the ayoniso manasikara with mindfulness, you can transform it into the yoniso manasikara. That is a very basic conditioning. And when you transform that, you would also transform the object. Okay, for example, you're having craving, sexual pleasure. For example, you have this, you like this stuff, pasta. What is the favorite pastas of Italiano? Sandra, qual è pasta tua preferita? Tipo di riso. So you don't have too attachment to food, is it? So that's why when you're eating, you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful. Eating, swallowing. Then of course, when you are mindful, you don't take into all those attractive parts of the food. When you are really mindful, there's not much taste. Because the taste arises and disappears immediately. See, for example, a monk was telling me his experience. So he was meditating and he saw a beautiful lady. So he's not seeing. He didn't seem to work. She's still there, smiling at him. So what did he do? He imagined her what they call her snot coming out. So when the notice come to her mouth, she spit at him. So that got rid of her. This is not exactly the Vipassana method, but at least it solved the problem for the moment. Many years ago, something like that also happened to me. I was meditating near the forest. Of course, there's still this house, the hut there where I stay. Then at night, I was sleeping half awake. I was actually awake. I heard music, song, I was in a Thai village. Somebody was singing a Thai song. And she come nearer and nearer. And I said, be careful, mindful. And after that, she started showing her legs, very beautiful legs. No. Then after that, I did something else. I directed to try to read her mind. When I tried to read her mind, it was evil. It disappeared. So this part probably Vipassana because the mind is, except that this mind is not internal, it's external. In this case, I was not sleeping, I was totally mindful. So you see how the mindfulness is able to, yoniso manasikara is able to transform the object as well. When you watch the hindrances and you have this, make sure that you have this yoniso manasikara, then you look into the object and look in the three characteristics. So this is illustrated here. The hindrances, when you look into it, you look into the conditioning. And in the Sabha Sutta, it tells very directly a very important conditioning factor of the hindrances. It's the manasikara. Of course, there are other conditions. For example, the proximate cause is usually the object. Proximate, that means the immediate cause that you can see directly, the object facing you, and which is, of course, the attractive object. Pali was ittaramana. Then there's an especially attractive object, ati ittaramana. And so, if the person is not trained, especially in the ati ittaramana, because it's so wonderful, automatically the latent defilements come out, which is craving. When at that moment, usually people are a bit late, one step behind. I'm sure you heard of fatal attraction. Unfinished, boom, you're hopeless. I've seen this happen. There was this Japanese man, very rich, but he has weakness on alcohol and drugs. So he happened to keep it aside. Then one day he met a lady. Is gone. So, this comes from the very basic natures of a human being. You cannot blame him. Nobody is to be blamed. But because of the conditions like that, he's helpless. So that's why every time the training of the Indriya Samvara, the restraint of the senses, seeing as seeing, hearing as hearing, and so on. Nothing else. So I always remember this Upanishad's example that a yogi is like a sick person. When he sees something, it's as if he's blind. When he hears something, as if he's deaf. But unless you're in an intensive retreat, you can do that. Otherwise, no. difficult unless you have been undergoing a lot of training. So when you're trained well enough, the manasikara is well trained. It always keeps to the right way. So when you can see the dissolution of the hindrances, then you see the characteristics. That means at the moment of disappearance of the hindrance of the craving, anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, skeptical doubt, and you see it disappear. The characteristics are there. And I feel that this way is very effective in dealing with defilements in a more complete way. Good to know.